The unexpected catch. The twin suns of Viridian 7 were beginning their slow descent when Marcus Brennan checked his final trap of the day. His bare chest glistened with sweat from hours of hiking through the dense alien jungle, and his worn cargo pants bore the evidence of 3 years living wild on this distant world. The humidity here would have broken most men, but Marcus had grown to appreciate it. He had left Earth behind after too many years of following orders that left his conscience raw and bleeding. Out here, there were no commanding officers and no politicians sending young soldiers into meat grinders for political gain. There was only survival and the strange peace that came with it. His short, dark hair had grown shaggy, and his jaw carried a permanent shadow of stubble that he rarely bothered to shave. The military had made him hard, and this planet had made him something else entirely. Something more honest. The trap ahead was his largest, and designed for the 6-legged creatures the size of deer that roamed this sector. As he approached through a thicket of luminescent ferns, he heard something that made him freeze completely still. A voice. Not animal sounds or the clicking of insects, but an actual voice speaking words he could not understand. The language was melodic, with rising and falling tones that reminded him of wind chimes. Marcus moved silently forward, using every skill his training had beaten into him. What he found made him question whether the jungle heat had finally cooked his brain. Suspended in his net trap, about 2 meters off the ground, was a woman. Her skin was a beautiful shade of purple that seemed to pulse gently with some inner light. Long, dark violet hair cascaded around her face, and her eyes, when they locked onto his, were a stunning shade of gold. She was wearing something that looked like a black bodysuit, but the material moved organically, like living vines woven together. The moment she spotted him, her golden eyes went wide with pure terror. She began speaking rapidly in that musical language, and her words tumbling over each other in obvious panic. Then suddenly, she switched to English. "Please do not eat me," she cried out, and her voice trembled badly. "I know your species consumes other beings, but I promise I would not taste good at all, and I have almost no nutritional value, and please, please, I am begging you." Marcus stared at her for a long moment. Then he laughed. It was not cruel, but genuinely surprised, and the sound seemed to confuse her completely. "Eat you?" he repeated while shaking his head. "Is that really what you think humans do?" The purple woman blinked rapidly. "You are not going to devour me?" "I generally prefer my meals to not talk back," Marcus said, with a crooked smile as he moved closer to examine the trap mechanism. "Hold still, and I will get you down from there." "You truly are not going to consume me?" she asked again, with desperate hope creeping into her voice. "I promise," he replied while working the release, "though I have to admit, this is my first time catching someone who can hold a conversation." He extended his hand toward her. "I am Marcus Brennan." "I am called Celine," she replied while watching his movements with those incredible golden eyes. The net released suddenly, and she yelped with surprise. Marcus caught her easily in his arms, her slight frame weighing almost nothing, despite her being nearly as tall as he was. For a frozen moment, they stayed exactly like that, with her purple arms wrapped instinctively around his neck and his strong hands supporting her back and legs. Her skin felt like warm silk against his bare chest. Her golden eyes searched his face, and he could see her pulse fluttering in her graceful throat. The scent of her was intoxicating, and unlike anything he had experienced before, with notes of night-blooming flowers and something electrically sweet. "You may set me down now," Celine said softly, but she made no move to release her grip around his neck. "Right," Marcus cleared his throat and carefully placed her on her feet. "Sorry about the trap, and I was not exactly expecting to catch a beautiful woman today." Celine smoothed her strange, living bodysuit while studying him with obvious fascination. "You called me beautiful? Was that not appropriate?" "It was," she said slowly, "unexpected." She looked around the jungle with renewed alarm. "I was fleeing from a pack of blade runners when I stumbled into your snare. I never saw it until the net closed around me." "Blade runners?" Marcus frowned deeply. "Those six-legged predators with the razor spines?" "Yes." "Then you are lucky you found my trap before they found you," he said seriously. "My cabin is not far from here, and would you like to rest there for a while? Because you seem pretty shaken up." Celine hesitated, her golden gaze moving over his face as if searching for deception. "You are nothing like what we were told about humans," she finally said. "And what exactly were you told?" "That your species were savage predators who would consume anything you could catch," she admitted. "That you were dangerous beyond measure." Marcus grinned, and the expression transforming his rugged features. "Well, we are predators in a sense, but we are also civilized. Well, most of us anyway." He gestured toward the path leading to his cabin. "Come on, I'll make you some tea, or the closest thing I can manage with local herbs, and you can tell me more about these fascinating misconceptions about my species." They walked in silence for several minutes, with Celine following close behind him. Marcus could feel her eyes on his back, studying his movements with the intensity of a scientist examining a new specimen. "So," he said conversationally, "I'm guessing you're not from around here." Celine actually laughed at that, and the sound was musical and warm and did something strange to his chest. "No, I'm not," she replied. "But then neither are you, Marcus Brennan." He glanced back at her with genuine curiosity in his dark eyes. The way she said his name, with that slight accent, made it sound almost poetic. "Fair point," he conceded. "What brings you to this particular corner of the galaxy?" "I am what your species might call a researcher," she said carefully. "My people have been studying humans for some time." "Is that so?" Marcus raised an eyebrow. "And what is the verdict?" "The official position is that humans are too dangerous to contact directly," Celine admitted. "Your aggression and predatory instincts make you unpredictable. And yet, here you are." "Here I am," she agreed softly. The cabin came into view through the trees, and Celine stopped to stare at it with obvious surprise. The structure was handcrafted from local wood, with large windows and a covered porch. Flowering vines climbed the walls, and small bioluminescent creatures hovered around the entrance like living lanterns. "This is your dwelling?" she asked. "Home sweet home," Marcus replied. "It's not much, but I built it myself." "It is," Celine searched for the right word, "beautiful." She turned to look at him with new understanding in her golden eyes. "You are nothing like what I expected, Marcus Brennan. Is that a good thing or a bad thing?" Celine smiled, and her purple skin seemed to glow warmer in the fading light. "I am beginning to think it might be a very good thing indeed."
Breaking down barriers. The interior of Marcus's cabin made Celine pause at the threshold, with her golden eyes moving slowly across every detail. Hand-carved wooden furniture filled the cozy space, and shelves lined with earth books covered one entire wall. A stone fireplace dominated the far corner, and soft woven rugs covered the floor. Through the large windows, the jungle's natural bioluminescence was beginning to glow as evening approached. "This is nothing like our research suggested," Celine murmured, while running her purple fingers along a shelf of worn paperback novels. "We believed humans lived in cold, sterile environments, focused only on efficiency and aggression." "Sounds like your researchers need to get out more," Marcus replied, as he moved to prepare hot drinks using dried local herbs. Celine watched him work with undisguised fascination, and her gaze lingering on the muscles of his back as he moved. "Your physiology is remarkable," she said softly, "the way your body functions and the efficiency of your movements." "Are you studying me right now?" Marcus asked with amusement in his voice. "I am always studying," she admitted. "It is my nature." He handed her a steaming cup, and their fingers brushed during the exchange. Celine drew in a sharp breath, and her purple skin darkening noticeably at the point of contact. "Are you all right?" Marcus asked with concern. "Yes, She paused and collected herself. "Physical contact affects my species rather intensely." "I will keep that in mind," he said, while settling into a chair across from her, but his dark eyes held a spark of interest that had not been there before. They talked for hours as the jungle night deepened outside. Marcus explained how he had left Earth after too many years of military service and too many orders that violated his conscience. He spoke of finding this abandoned colony world and deciding to stay when his transport ship departed. "You chose complete isolation," Celine said with wonder. "Most species fear loneliness above almost anything else. Sometimes being alone is better than being surrounded by people who expect you to be something you are not." Marcus replied. Celine nodded slowly and her expression thoughtful. "I understand that feeling more than you might imagine." "Tell me about your people," Marcus said, while leaning forward with genuine interest. "The Thalorians." Celine set down her cup, and her golden eyes growing distant. "We are a species dedicated to knowledge and scientific advancement above all else. Every aspect of our society is structured around research and discovery, and strict protocols govern everything we do." "Sounds suffocating." "It can be," she admitted, "which is why I am here." "Unauthorized research," Marcus guessed. "Completely unauthorized," Celine confirmed, and a hint of rebellion flickering in her golden gaze. "My people believe humans are too dangerous to study directly, and all our data comes from remote observation and intercepted communications." "But you disagreed?" "I believe there had to be more to your species than aggression and violence," she said while meeting his eyes. "Your art, and your music, and your literature, none of it matched the official assessment." "So you came to see for yourself?" "I borrowed a small research vessel and traveled here alone," Celine confessed. "This planet was listed in our databases as having a single human inhabitant, and I thought I could observe from a distance." "Until you walked into my trap," Marcus finished, with a grin. "Until I walked into your trap," she agreed, and her own lips curving into a smile. The warmth in the cabin seemed to intensify as they looked at each other. Celine's purple skin had been gradually darkening throughout their conversation, and now it held a deep violet hue that Marcus found mesmerizing. "Your skin changes color," he observed. "What does it mean when it gets darker like that?" Celine's eyes widened slightly, and she looked down at her own arms with apparent surprise. "It indicates heightened emotional states," she said carefully. "What kind of emotional states?" "Various kinds," she replied evasively. Marcus stood and moved to refill their cups, and his path bringing him closer to where Celine sat. She looked up at him, and her golden eyes reflecting the soft firelight. "You know," Marcus said quietly, "for someone who came here to study humans, you seem remarkably reluctant to share information about yourself. Perhaps I am not accustomed to being the subject rather than the observer. Maybe it is time to try something new." He sat down beside her on the small couch, and the proximity making Celine's skin flush even darker. "Marcus," she breathed, and his name sounding like music in her melodic voice. "Yes, Celine. My people would consider this highly irregular." "Mine probably would too," he admitted. "Does that bother you?" She was quiet for a long moment, her golden eyes searching his face. "No," she finally whispered. "I do not think it does." The fire crackled softly as Marcus reached out to touch her cheek. Celine shivered at the contact, and her purple skin rippling with waves of deeper color. "Your hands," she murmured. "They are so warm. Is that unusual for your species?" She explained. "We run cooler. The heat of your body is quite intoxicating." Marcus traced his thumb along her cheekbone and marveling at the silk-smooth texture of her skin. "You are incredibly beautiful, Celine." "By Thalorian standards, I am quite ordinary," she replied. "Then Thalorian standards need serious revision." Celine laughed softly, but the sound caught in her throat as Marcus leaned closer. "I should warn you," she whispered, "that physical intimacy between our species could have unforeseen consequences." "Such as?" "She actually does not know," she admitted. "No Thalorian has ever been intimate with a human before." "Then I suppose we would be making scientific history." Celine's golden eyes sparkled with a mixture of desire and amusement. "That is a terrible justification for what you're suggesting, Marcus Brennan." "Is it working?" she answered by closing the distance between them and pressing her purple lips against his. The kiss was electric and unlike anything Marcus had ever experienced. Celine tasted of starlight and exotic flowers, and her cool skin warming rapidly under his touch. Her fingers tangled in his dark hair and pulling him closer as the kiss deepened. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing heavily. That was, she paused and collected herself, extremely illuminating. Illuminating, Marcus repeated with a husky laugh. That's one word for it. I may require additional data, she said, her golden eyes dark with desire. For science? For science, she agreed. Their lips met again, and this time, neither of them pulled away. The fire burned low as the night deepened around them, and two beings from different worlds discovering that some connections transcend the boundaries of species and galaxies. Outside the cabin, the alien jungle sang its nocturnal chorus, while inside, something profound and transformative was just beginning.
Crossing the line. The firelight painted dancing shadows across the cabin walls as Marcus and Celine explored the boundaries between their worlds. Her purple skin had deepened to a rich violet that seemed to pulse with inner light, and every place his hands touched left trails of luminescence in their wake. "Your body responds so beautifully," Marcus murmured against her neck. Celine shivered at the warmth of his breath on her cool skin. "Thalorians are bioluminescent when experiencing intense emotion," she explained breathlessly. "I have never glowed this brightly before." "Should I take that as a compliment?" "You should take it as an understatement." Marcus pulled back slightly to look at her, and his dark eyes drinking in the ethereal sight of her glowing form. She was the most magnificent thing he had ever seen, and he had traveled across galaxies. "We should stop," he said reluctantly, "if you are not certain about this." Celine reached up and cupped his face in her purple hands, and her golden eyes blazing with determination. "Marcus Brennan, I have spent my entire life following protocols and rules and doing what was expected of me," she said firmly. "I came to this planet because I wanted to break free from all of that, and tonight I want to break every rule my species has ever created." "Celine! I want you," she interrupted, "not as a research subject and not as a scientific curiosity, but as a man." She pulled him down to her, and her lips finding his with desperate urgency. "Show me what human passion truly feels like." Marcus needed no further encouragement. He gathered her in his arms and lifted her effortlessly from the couch. Celine wrapped her arms around his neck and her legs around his waist as he carried her toward the bedroom. Her living bodysuit seemed to respond to her desires, and the vine-like material loosening and retracting as if understanding her intentions. "Your clothing," Marcus observed with fascination. "It responds to my biological signals," Celine explained between kisses. "Right now, my signals are quite clear." The bedroom was bathed in soft moonlight from the large window and the alien stars beyond, creating a canopy of light above them. Marcus laid Celine gently on the bed, and her purple hair spreading across the pillows like a dark nebula. She reached for him and pulled him down beside her. "I want to feel all of you," she whispered. Their remaining barriers fell away, and two bodies from different corners of the universe finally coming together. Celine gasped at the heat of his skin against hers and the temperature difference between their species, creating an intoxicating contrast. "You burn like a star," she breathed. "And you feel like cool moonlight," Marcus replied, while trailing his lips along her collarbone. Every touch sent ripples of light cascading across her purple skin, her bioluminescence flaring brighter with each wave of pleasure. Marcus had never experienced anything like it, and the visual feedback of her responses, making their connection feel almost supernatural. "Is this—" he paused to look into her golden eyes. "Is this all right?" "It is beyond all right," Celine assured him, her voice trembling with emotion. "It is transcendent." She pulled him closer, and their bodies finding a rhythm that felt ancient and instinctive, despite their biological differences. The heat of his passion merged with the cool electricity of her desire, and creating something entirely new. Celine cried out as waves of pleasure crashed through her, and her entire body glowing like a purple sun.
Marcus watched in awe as light pulsed beneath her skin in patterns that seemed almost like music made visible. "Beautiful," he whispered. "You are so incredibly beautiful." She reached for him and, pulling him into another deep kiss, "More," she demanded against his lips. "I want more of you." Their joining continued through the long, alien night, and each moment of connection deepening the bond between them. Marcus discovered that Selene's species experienced pleasure differently than humans, with sensations that built in layers rather than peaks. And Selene learned that human passion was far more complex and tender than her people had ever imagined. When they finally lay exhausted in each other's arms, the first hints of dawn were beginning to lighten the sky. Selene's skin was still glowing softly, and the bioluminescence now a gentle constant, rather than the wild flares of their lovemaking. That was, she paused, searching for adequate words. I do not have vocabulary sufficient to describe what that was. Marcus chuckled and pressed a kiss to her forehead. I was going to say incredible, but vocabulary insufficient works too. Selene traced lazy patterns on his chest with her purple fingers, and her golden eyes soft with contentment. My biochemistry has been altered, she said thoughtfully. I can feel it. Is that dangerous? No, she assured him, but it is significant. Our physical connection has left a molecular imprint on my biology. What does that mean exactly? It means that, on a cellular level, I have been changed by you, Marcus. Your genetic material has temporarily bonded with mine and creating a unique signature that is neither fully Thalorian nor human. Marcus considered this information with a slight frown. Will it cause you problems? Only if my people try to scan for my biosignature, she replied, and then her expression suddenly shifted to alarm, which they will certainly do when they realize I'm missing. How long before they notice your absence? I was supposed to report back 3 days ago. Marcus sat up abruptly, and his military instincts immediately engaging. 3 days, and you did not think to mention this earlier. I was somewhat distracted, she pointed out, with a meaningful look at his naked form. Despite the seriousness of the situation, Marcus could not help but laugh. Fair point, he conceded, but we need to start thinking about what happens when they come looking for you. Selene nodded, and her expression growing serious. They will come, and they will bring technology designed to track Thalorian life signs across vast distances. Then we need to be prepared. He leaned down and kissed her again, and the contact reignited the spark between them. But maybe we can worry about that tomorrow, he suggested against her lips. Selene smiled and pulled him back down to the bed. Tomorrow seems like an excellent time for worrying. The suns rose higher outside, but neither of them noticed as they lost themselves in each other once more. For now, the future could wait, and there was only this moment and this connection and two souls who had found something precious against all odds. The universe and all its complications would still be there when they finally emerged. But right now, there was only Marcus and Selene, and the new world they were creating together, one touch at a time.
The hunt begins. The peaceful morning shattered when Selene's monitoring device began emitting urgent warning tones. She bolted upright in Marcus's arms, and her purple skin paling to a lighter shade as she studied the readings. They have brought quantum resonance scanners, she breathed, with fear evident in her golden eyes. These can detect the molecular changes in my biology from our intimate connection. Marcus was already moving, and years of military training overriding any lingering drowsiness. How long do we have? Hours at most, Selene replied, while her fingers danced across the device interface. They're using a grid pattern search, with far more sophisticated equipment than standard protocols. Then we need to think like humans, not like scientists, Marcus said while pulling on his cargo pants. Your people expect logic and patterns, so we will give them chaos. Selene watched him with admiration as he gathered supplies and weapons. What is your plan? You said our physical intimacy changed your biochemistry. A roguish grin spread across his rugged features. We are going to use that, and we will create false trails with multiple signatures to make them chase shadows. They moved quickly through the jungle, and Marcus leading them along hidden paths he had discovered over 3 years of solitary exploration. At strategic locations, they stopped for brief, passionate encounters,
each one leaving traces of Celine's altered biosignature for the scanners to detect. Your people will be analyzing data and looking for logical patterns, Marcus explained between kisses. They are not prepared for human unpredictability. You're asking me to weaponize our lovemaking? Celine said, with amusement coloring her voice. Is that a problem? It is surprisingly arousing, she admitted, and her skin flushing darker. The search vessels passed overhead multiple times, but Marcus knew this terrain better than any scanner could map. He led them through mineral-rich caves that disrupted signals, and across streams that masked their heat signatures. The readings will drive them mad, Celine observed while checking her device. Multiple signatures, all showing identical molecular changes, but scattered across impossible distances. And while they try to make sense of it all, Marcus pulled her close, we implement the final phase. They returned to the cabin and worked quickly to modify one of Marcus's larger traps. Combining his military knowledge with Celine's scientific expertise, they created an electromagnetic pulse device, using parts from her research equipment. Are you certain this will work? Celine asked. Trust me, Marcus replied with confidence. Sometimes the best way to escape a trap is to set one of your own. When the search team finally tracked their strongest lead to the cabin, they triggered the EMP. All their sophisticated scanning equipment failed simultaneously, and screens going dark and sensors falling silent. And the chaos that followed, Marcus and Celine vanished into the jungle and heading toward the abandoned mining facility he had discovered years ago. Finding forever. They reached the mining outpost as the twin suns began setting and painting the sky in shades of orange and purple that matched Celine's glowing skin. The facility was a structure of metal and crystalline materials abandoned decades ago when the original colony failed. They will never think to search here, Marcus said while helping Celine through the entrance. This sector was already cleared, and the facility's shielding will mask any readings. Celine's monitoring device confirmed his assessment. The search teams were still trying to repair their damaged equipment and make sense of the scattered biosignatures. We actually did it, she whispered with wonder. We outsmarted an entire Thalorian science expedition. Never underestimate human chaos theory, Marcus replied with a tired grin. They explored the facility together and finding living quarters that needed only minor repairs and equipment that still functioned despite years of neglect. Through a large viewport, the alien stars blazed against the velvet darkness. This could be home, Celine said softly while standing at the window. A real home for both of us. Marcus came up behind her and wrapped his arms around her waist. Is that what you want? To stay here with me and give up everything you knew? Celine turned in his embrace, and her golden eyes meeting his dark ones. I came to this planet to study humans, but instead I discovered something far more valuable. What is that? That connection matters more than data, that passion is more important than protocols, and that love transcends every boundary my species believed existed. Love? Marcus repeated, the word hanging between them. Is that too forward? No, he said while cupping her face in his hands. It is perfect. Their kiss was soft and tender and full of promise for the future they would build together. Later, as they lay tangled together in their new home, Celine traced patterns on Marcus's chest while the stars wheeled slowly outside. My people will eventually stop searching, she murmured. They will declare me lost and return to their protocols and their data. Any regrets? Only that I did not fall into your trap sooner. Marcus laughed and pulled her closer. Best catch I ever made. Celine smiled against his skin, and her purple form glowing softly with contentment. Outside the mining facility, the alien jungle sang its eternal song, while inside, two beings from different worlds dreamed of tomorrow. They had both been running from something when they found each other. Marcus from a past that haunted him, and Celine from a future that confined her. Now they had found something neither expected, a home and a partner, and a love that proved the universe was far more wonderful and surprising than any species could imagine. The stars above them seemed to shine brighter than before, as if celebrating the impossible connection that had formed between a lonely human soldier and a rebel alien scientist. And somewhere in the vastness of space, two worlds continued their separate existences, never knowing that the greatest discovery of all had been made on a forgotten planet by two hearts brave enough to reach across the void.